Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome to our webinar discussion, Identify and Manage EU Cross-Border Compliance Issues Before They Occur. We will be taking questions towards the end of the session, so please do drop any questions you may have into the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. I'll now hand over to our speakers, Rebecca and Katie.
Thanks, Holly. Let's start by introducing ourselves. Katie, would you like to go first?
Great, thanks, Rebecca. So hi, everyone. I'm Katie. I'm one of the client services managers at NewlandChase. I've been working in immigration and business travel for about 6 years now. I'm also the subject matter expert for EMEA Smart, which is the assessment tool that I'll take you through later in today's webinar.
Thanks,
Over
Katie.
to you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Applewhite. I'm the Director of Solutions Consulting at Topia. I am probably our expert on what our suite of mobility technology can offer to large organizations with any kind of globally distributed workforce. I come from over 15 years in the global mobility industry, and I've always focused on solutions for common challenges faced by organizations with cross-border employees, with an especial interest in solutions that involve technology. So I'm really delighted to be partnering up with Katie today to take you through the Topia and NewlandChase solution for pre-travel assessments. So firstly, a little bit of context. Clearly, we're at a really unique juncture where the confluence of rather unforeseen events are creating a lot of complexity and headaches for many organizations. We've all managed to pivot in response to social distancing and quarantine requirements, offering short and now longer term approaches to remote working. And at the same time, there are greater regulation requirements and border controls by international governments in response to the pandemic. Meanwhile, the long-term impact on business travel and cross-border mobility is still being worked through. And we also anticipate that as we begin the slow return to a new normal, we're going to see increased assertiveness from governments across the world in the form of audits and controls. We think that's very likely given the revenue shortfalls experienced by governments. So let's take a look at two of those controls in particular that are going to affect movement and travel across the UK and Europe, posted worker legislation and the impact of Brexit. At a high level, the EU posted worker legislation is affecting any person who, for a limited period of time, will be carrying out his or her work in the territory of an EU member state, which is different than the state in which he or she normally works. And it's clear that the legislation is going to apply to a wide range of use cases, including, for example, individuals that are posted to a member state under a services contract, for example, an auditor working at a client site, individuals that are posted within the same corporate group. So, for example, that might be some of your employees attending specific training or meetings at a different entity or site, and individuals that are hired by temporary employment agencies. And it's important to note that an employee is not typically considered to fall under the definition of a posted worker if they have transferred to a local employment contract in that new member state. And also that in respect of this legislation, nationality is not at all relevant. So if we think about the impacts of posted worker legislation in general, this means that organisations have to consider three elements of compliance applicable to posted workers. Next slide, please, Katie. In respect of labour law, organisations are going to have to commit to providing a minimum level of employment protection to any employee that falls under this definition. In respect of social security law, organisations need to confirm that individuals continue to have coverage under their home state social security provisions, and that's usually by obtaining a certificate of coverage, or an A1 as it is known in Europe. And in respect of immigration law, organisations may be required to fulfil certain local registration requirements, as well as obtain the required work and residence permits, depending on the nature of that posted worker. What about Brexit? Well, it's just, posted worker is just one element of compliance considerations. In addition, the Brexit breakup has meant that now we have new tracking obligations for both UK and EU passport holders travelling in and out of the UK and the EU respectively. And once certain days thresholds are met, which depends on whether travel is in or without the Schengen or non-Schengen groups. Once certain thresholds are met, there are then likely to be visa requirements in advance of any further travel being undertaken. So, in summary, organisations that wish to maintain compliance for their distributed workforce face complex headaches with multiple requirements, both in respect of assessing pre-travel requirements and in respect of tracking and managing cumulative and actual travel days. So let's have a look now at how the partnership between Topia and NewlandChase will help us to help you address some of these challenges. So first of all, I just want to give you a brief overview of the Topia Global Talent Mobility Suite, which consists of our 6 applications: Plan, Manage, Pay, Compass, Go, and Teleport. And all of these sit on top of our market-leading Topia One platform. All of these applications are designed to support the requirements of managing a globally mobile workforce. And Compass, which is our focus today, is specifically aimed at business travel, remote work, and specific location-based compliance activities. The Topia platform supports powerful cross-application capabilities like reporting, like business process automation, like quick and easy integration capability. And in respect of Compass in particular, our platform approach dramatically simplifies the integrations needed to make sure that your data gets to where it needs to be, whether that is hooking up your core systems, HR, finance, your travel providers, or your downstream service providers. And we're especially excited about our partnership with NewlandChase, which is bringing additional capability to the pre-travel assessment in particular. So here's a high-level view of the Topia Compass integrated travel risk management solution. We're bringing the best of our platform approach to data and integrations to help our customers identify the planned travel and gather any other relevant employment data. Thanks to those automated, seamless integrations with travel providers such as SAP Concur and HR systems such as Workday, it's easier for Topia to combine the data and then automatically route travellers to NewlandChase for a seamless experience of a pre-travel assessment and then the fulfilment of those immigration requirements and needs. The Topia Compass tool then takes a holistic view of travel risk management, extending beyond pre-travel to understand actual travel and manage accompanying risks. For example, once someone has obtained the appropriate visa or documentation for a trip, what happens if they overstay their original plan? Or how do you manage downstream compliance if their travel is also creating a permanent establishment risk or getting close to a payroll withholding threshold? What if your travellers are travelling without booking via a travel provider, or if they hop in their car and drive across a European border? So thanks to the Topia's capability to bring in both passive and active data sources, as well as that travel request information, we can provide our customers with holistic program visibility into post-travel tracking and threshold management. But the focus of this webinar is really on our pre-travel capability, and in particular, how our partnership with NewlandChase can support you with this key compliance lead. So let's take a look at how it works. So broadly, our solution is divided into 3 core activities. We'll firstly identify. So using those standard automated integrations from your travel provider, the Topia engine identifies upcoming travel booked by your employees and then leverages configured logic thresholds to alert the traveller that they need to complete an assessment prior to undertaking their trip. Secondly, in the assess phase, the traveller is taken seamlessly to the NewlandChase CIBT EMEA Smart assessment, which is pre-filled with the data obtained by Topia. The assessment will confirm the required activities or documents and collect any additional information from the individual in a few quick and easy steps. And finally, in the fulfill stage, the results of the assessment are shared with the individual and your fulfillment teams, as well as the CIBT or NewlandChase service delivery teams, and they're then initiated to complete the required activities. Let's walk you through now what this looks like in an example demonstration. So let's imagine I am one of your employees. My name is Frank. I'm about to book a business trip to Belgium. So I've hopped onto SAP Concur, which is my organization's travel provider. I've confirmed and checked the price, and I've selected the appropriate flight. Once I've booked that trip, in the next couple of minutes, I receive a notification from Topia that I'm likely to need additional documentation before I undertake the travel. I click on the link provided and I am taken to the assessment. So Topia has used the information gathered in the travel booking and shared via the seamless integration with NewlandChase CIBT EMEA Smart that an assessment's likely to be required. We've gathered as much information as we can about Frank from his travel booking and his core HR system and passed that securely and seamlessly to pre-fill as much of the assessment as possible. Katie, over to you to take Frank through his new assessment.
Thanks, Rebecca. So just to give you, I guess, a bit of a summary and information about EMEA Smart. So EMEA Smart is essentially an assessment tool. And what it does is it encompasses both of your business travel and your global mobility programs together. So, you know, working with CIBT and NewlandChase in one platform. And it takes your employee's profile and their past travel history to give you instant assessments and overviews in a clear and digestible way, because we know that immigration can be a bit of a minefield, so we want to keep it simple but to the point. So what you can see on the screen here, so we're carrying on Frank's journey and we're going to go to Belgium. So as you can see here, this is sort of how we fill out the assessment. I'll fill out these sections in a moment with the countries and his travel dates, etc. But what you can see down the bottom here are some planned activities. So what we will do is sort of part of your technology, your EMEA Smart technology, is we can give you a standardized version, or we can tailor the version for you. So we can make the activities that you can see on screen here more relatable to your employees. So for example, if you're a salesperson, you'd only see activities that are relevant to yourself, or if you're an engineer, you'd only see activities that you as an engineer would actually do. So you'd select the activities that you're going to do, and then we can go through the assessment. So if we go back to Frank, we're going to go to Belgium. So if I select Belgium, and then I'm going to select my travel date, so I'm going to go in March. We'll go for a couple of days. And then, you can see here that my residence, where I'm coming from is New York. So that's the information that I was referring to that's been pulled through from my profile. Then you've got some host company information. So if you're, going on more of a long-term assignment, then you can, transfer to a different host company or a different entity. So just for this example, I'll select that I'm going to be doing some activities that could, require a posted worker notification. So if I click to view the results, so it's going to pull all the information from my profile, and already it's giving me an inclination that, the purposes for my trip is going to be work. So I might need something additional. So I've got my salary location now and my contract location. So similar to the host entity, if I'm transferring, so I'm going for a longer period of time, then I'll be going to the host country. But I'm going to stay with my contract and my salary, in my home office and my home location. If you want to narrow down the results a little bit more, you can put your actual salary amount, but it's not 100% necessary. So if I click to view the results, it's going to straight away give me that instant assessment and sort of give me the clear, digestible steps and information of, of what I'm going to need for my trip. So you can see at the top here, it's giving me an assessment summary. So it's already categorized me as work, and it's saying sort of based on my criteria, I'm going to need a post of worker notification. So you can see that listed here. And then if I scroll down, you can see a summary of the information it's pulled from my profile, as well as the information that I've put in the assessment. And it's given me a few options of the different, visa processes, post of worker notifications, etc., that are available to me. So if I select, one of these, and then scroll down, you can see it's giving me a description of what this particular application is. It's giving me an estimate of the timing and the major steps. So you can see I've got my post of worker notification here, and it's telling me, the timing as well. And then if I keep scrolling down, you can see a bit more information about stay limits. It's got information about COVID, so any COVID restrictions, if you've got to do quarantines, all of that's listed here for you. It also contains Brexit information, so we know that's a hot topic right now. So it's giving you that information and covering all those steps for you. So once I've gone through my assessment and I've read through and saw the different steps that are available to me, I can select to initiate a request and submit that at the top here. So it's quite simple. I just click to initiate the request, and it will send an email through to either NewlandChase or CIBT. In terms of sort of approval processes, we can build an approval process system into the tool. So if you prefer for your employees to get permission from their line manager before initiating to us, we can. Or if you want to keep it simple and just initiate direct to us, then we can. So the example that you've seen on the screen today is just one of the many outcomes that can come from the Immigration Smart tool. You can do business visas, and that will prompt you and take you direct to our sister company, CIBT. You could need a full work permit, or you could actually be visa exempt, and you'll be able to download support letters from EMEA Smart that your employees can take with you, just to take through customs if they did get any questions, and they've got that letter available to them. So that's an assessment in a nutshell for you, but there are other features in EMEA Smart that I want to just show you. So if you are a HR lead, then you will have access to the dashboard, additional features of reporting, and you'll get case summaries as well. So you can do that on an individual level for individual employees, or globally you have that whole overview of your employees and what they're doing and where they're traveling. So you can see on the screen here, this is just sort of some snapshots of what the information is available. Quite holistic, quite simple to read, and that's what we need, clear and precise. So you've got your alerts, you can see the number of employees that are using the system, you can sort of get your top countries and where they are overseas, and some clients have been surprised actually when they've been able to have the holistic overview of which countries are being traveled to. You've got upcoming trips by month and destination, and you can see the assessments and the number of assessments for the trips that are upcoming. You also down the bottom here have a map view, and then you can see here, if I hover over just Canada, for example, you can see I've got one alert, and I'll show you the alerts in a moment. And if you had anyone overseas, you'd be able to see that. So that's just some of the information that you can get. I'll quickly switch to the alerts. So you can see here, there's multiple different types of alerts that you can get, but just to give you some examples. So as Rebecca mentioned earlier, there is the count these days on 90 out of 180 days in the Schengen area. So you can use the tool for that, and you as an employee would get the notification, but also the HR or your line manager can get those notifications as well. So it's very important to help keep track. And then documents expiring as well, passports or the immigration documents, we'll send you notifications so that you're aware of when things are going to expire. I'll also quickly just show you the reporting. So one of the great things about EMEA Smart is it captures both CIBT data and NewlandChase. So you can get a full overview of all of your visas and work permits. So just a few examples here that you can see. Ability to travel to countries, you can do invoice reports, and again, that's both CIBT and NewlandChase data. You can see, where employees currently are to see who would be the best fit to travel, and check sort of the types of documents that they have. Also, what you can see on the tool, and if you do want to have a more in-depth demo, then we can show you that, is cases. So you can have a view and an overview of the cases that you currently have open with NewlandChase or with CIBT. And then the last thing just to point out on EMEA Smart before we move over to questions is it does have a mobile app that your employees can use on the go to check the status and to upload copies of documents and to use the alerts for tracking, so you know where they are in the world.
Thank you, Katie, for taking us through that demonstration. So I'm just going to have a look at the whether we've received any questions, and please feel free to log your questions in the Q&A button at the top on the bottom panel of the screen. So one of the questions we've got here is, how quickly does Topia read the travel data from the travel provider? So I'll take this one. That really depends on the travel provider that you as an organization are using and the nature of the integrated feed that we set up. But typically the feed is happening multiple times a day. So the information about the travel booking is being sent to Topia frequently in order to make sure we've got the quickness and agility to respond to new travel requests and initiate the assessment in good time. At the very slowest, we typically see a daily feed from travel bookings back into Topia, but typically it's more likely multiple times a day. Okay, another question has come in. How long does the tool take to implement typically? Katie, can I hand that one to you?
Yeah, sure. So it depends. If you want the standard version, I would say sort of 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the size of your company. But of course, there are customizable options. We can set up APIs, single sign-ons, and we can tailor the tool. As I mentioned, when we, with the planned activities, we can map that for you. So that would depend on the size of the company, but on average, I would say 4 to 6 weeks.
Thanks, Katie. Okay, and we have a question. Is there a function to count the days per employee and tax-related risks? And yes, I can take that question. So we focused today's webinar on the pre-travel assessment capability, but the Topia tool also has the capability to track and manage actual travel days using a combination of passive and active travel data. And that means that, yes, absolutely, the expanded capability of the tool does have the capability to track and manage actual days for employees. And then over the top of that, we overlay various compliance use cases, including tax, payroll withholding requirements, personal establishment risk, and other compliance actions that need to take into account total days over specific periods. So I hope that answered that question. And I have another question which is similar. So querying whether this tool only addresses immigration aspects and not tax and social security. So just to clarify again, the pre-travel assessment typically addresses immigration and social security requirements, as well as those posted worker directive regulations. Social security requirements such as obtaining the A1 or the certificate of coverage are completely supported by the assessment tool. Typically for tax compliance obligations, this is something that is looked at on a post-travel basis. So once the number of days that an individual has started to spend in a country approaches a threshold, which is configurable for your organization, that's when we would take a look at the tax issues and obligations. I hope that answers your question. This webinar was focused on that pre-travel assessment in particular. Another question, I think we've got time for a couple more if there are any more. Can you customize the activities for specific business capabilities? Katie, I think that might be one for you.
Yes, we can. So we can split it out if different divisions, have different activities, different projects, or different individuals within those teams. So yes, we can customize it so that the activities are relevant for the people that are viewing them.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we have answered the questions. Please feel free to put any more in the channel. Okay, we've just got another one here. So can you report on travel cancelled but taken another day for the same destination and travel if on transit? So I think that this question is, if I can paraphrase it, I think what we are getting at here is whether the tool can look at modifications that are made to the travel booking and then respond accordingly. And yes, the answer is that yes, it can. So the integrated feed between your travel provider and Topia can account for modifications undertaken and then can then adjust the decision engine that's taken. So if there are changes made to the travel dates or the planned destination or the activities, the traveller would be asked to double check or readjust the information that's taken as part of the assessment, and then potentially a different outcome would be obtained. Katie, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah,
to that answer.
I was going to say as well, in EMEA Smart itself, it tracks every assessment that goes through the tool, and that's sort of part of the reporting functionality as well. So I guess if you have an employee that puts an assessment through and it comes as a work permit, but they don't have a lot of time, so they go back and change it to try and get a business a business perm output, then you can track that in the system, so you can see the number of times people do assessments. So yes, it's all trackable.
Thank you. Okay, so we don't have any more questions in the chat function. Oh, we've got time for one more. Can one integrate with different P&R feeds and booking sources at the same time, e.g. one configuration for EMEA with different entities? So yes, it is possible to set up multiple feeds of travel and booking data. And in fact, the Topia tool can also handle feeds of multiple data sources in respect of the assessment. So yes, that is perfectly possible. And thank you for your question. Right, so I'm going to close there. Both Katie and my contact details are on this slide. So if you have any questions that you haven't had a chance to put in the chat function, please feel free to reach out to either of us and we'll make sure that your question is answered. And if you'd like a more detailed demonstration, or if you'd like us to come back and show you some of the post-travel tracking capability, please feel free to do so, either using our email addresses or the standard info@topia.com email address there on the screen.